resources and infrastructure that it requires. Here to address those core questions is the one person who should know, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Purno Sangma. Mr. Speaker, in recent months, there's been a lot of concern about the various aspects of the Lok Sabha, and in particular about just how effective MPs in Parliament is. So let me ask you a simple, basic question. Do you think the Lok Sabha is as effective and as efficient as you would like it to be?
Well, it's a very difficult question. One thing I can say is, as far as India is concerned, our country is concerned, the only system that can work is the parliamentary democracy. I'm convinced of that. Having said so, whether the parliamentary democracy has succeeded in India, I would say yes. This is the year of the 50th year of independence. We have had 11 general elections, and we have proved to be a mature democracy.
But that, in a sense, Mr. Speaker, I take for granted. What about a different question, which is it as effective? Is the Lok Sabha as effective and as efficient as you would like it to be?
You know, if you go strictly as to what was intended to be the role of the Parliament of India as contemplated by the framers of the Constitution, as enshrined in the Constitution of India, I would say it is not doing as it should. I should say that.
Why?
After all, the main function of the Parliament is legislation. The main function of the Parliament is to formulate policies. It has to discuss national issues. It has to discuss international issues and try to reach a consensus in the country on basic policy matters.
Are you saying it isn't doing it?
This is what Parliament should be doing. But today, if you look at the functioning of the Parliament, we find that the national issues, the international issues, issues which should be really discussed, debated, and the national consensus would emerge out of that debate, I think is taking the back seat. Today in the Parliament, I find that it is the regional issues, it is the local issues which are dominated.
So in a sense, what you're saying is Parliament often behaves like a panchayat.
Yes, I can see that. You know, the matters which should have been raised in the panchayats, the matters which have been raised, should have been raised in the assembly are being raised in the Parliament. Now, of course, I can't blame the members of Parliament for that, you see, because there are reasons for this. You know. Number one reason is that the people's expectation of the members of Parliament has changed. The members of Parliament are being sent to the Parliament not to debate national issues in the mind of the common man, but to do something for them. That background is very much there, so they try to fight for their own constituencies, number one.
Does this also mean that they're losing national vision and they're getting parochial vision instead?
I'm inclined to agree with that. I'm inclined to agree with that. And that has to be corrected, you know. Second reason which I find is that the executive is becoming less accountable, you know, less responsive to the aspirations of the people. So executive has to function. People go to district headquarters, district magistrate, people go to state legislature, people go to ministers in the state, they don't find any remedy, and they believe that until and unless the matter is raised in the Parliament, nothing is going to happen. Again, that shows the fate of the people in the Parliament of India. Yes. Which is positive in one way.
Absolutely. On the one hand, it's
on the one way, yeah.
But on the other hand, you say the executive is becoming less and less accountable, which means that Parliament is not effective in making it accountable.
Oh, yes, in the manner in which they should have.
In the manner which they should.
It should have.
I want very much, Speaker, to talk about this issue, but so that I can give it a little framework for our lay audience, can I ask you quickly to confirm some reports that are in the press? For instance, the press says that the amount of time spent by Parliament discussing and handling legislation has shrunk considerably. Compared to 49% of its time in 52-57, it's only 22% in 91-96. Is that the case?
I am not very sure about the exact figures, but I think by and large, yes, it is true.
Is it also the
Declined.
case? It is declining.
In the time, yeah.
Is it also the case that the number of sittings that Parliament has
Yeah.
is shrinking?
May not be. That may not be necessarily so, you know. But, you know, of late, why it has happened is that the 0 hour, the so-called 0 hour, which is actually meant to raise an issue of national importance and is of so urgent in nature that it cannot be waited for tomorrow, and it is not listed in the parliamentary business, you know. Such matters are to be raised in the 0 hour. So when I came to the parliament for the first time in 1977, 6th Lok Sabha, you know, hardly, you know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the what you call 0 hour.
How much time is spent today?
Today we are spending minimum 1 hour a day.
So is 0 hour being misused by MPs?
I won't call misuse, you know. I would like to say that they are taking advantage of that 0 hour, you know, which is known as the privileged hour in some other parliament in the world. They take that opportunity to, you know, ventilate their grievances.
Okay, let's come back to what we were talking about, because in a sense this links up with the 0 hour advantage taking. It also links up with the fact that Parliament is spending less and less time handling legislation. The Parliamentary Affairs Minister told us that MPs are failing to find time for serious discussion. Do you share that view?
Yes, I think, you know, because members of Parliament, you know, when I was in the opposition in 1977, we used to be reading a lot. We would be collecting materials. We would be sitting in the Parliament library. We would be asking the research section of the Parliament to give us information and all, and then we would come fully prepared to participate in the debate. But today it is not happening, unfortunately, except there are a large number of members of Parliament who still contribute very well.
But you're worried by the number that don't.
But majority, I think, needs to reorient themselves.
Are you saying that they don't do their homework properly?
I don't know. That I cannot say whether they are doing their homework or not, but it is not visible in the floor of the House.
Another point that Mr. Jinnah made, which I'd like to confirm with you, is that he said MPs spend a lot of time politicking rather than handling issues and policies.
Well, I don't think I can blame the members of Parliament politicking, because after all, they are in politics, you know. So they have every right to do politics, and I think that one should be doing so. At the same time, I think they can do much better in the Parliament, on the floor. They can do much better in the Parliament. See, the problem with us, I think it is with me and with all of us, that somehow we don't try to realize how precious is the time, you know. The things which I can present to the whole country, to the Parliament, in 2 minutes or in 3 minutes, somehow I am not able to do it even in 1 hour. No? Because I go on talking and talking and talking and repeating and repeating. And
is that because some MPs are deliberately encroaching upon someone else's time?
They're
being
not
greedy?
Deliberately encroaching. They are not even realizing that by doing so, they are denying others, you know, the time that they would have got. You know? So time management is one very important aspect in Parliament.
But this is...
After all, you know, we sit for 6 hours in a day, which means it is 360 minutes, and the number of MPs are 545. So if you equitably distribute that time...
It's about 40 seconds.
40 seconds. And people go on talking for 40 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, you know. That is one area which members of Parliament have to realize, that how to utilize that time in the best way.
What you're also saying is how they ought to realize how to be to the point and brief.
Point. Absolutely.
And instead, MPs tend to ramble pointlessly.
That is the problem. If you don't prepare your speech, if you don't apply your mind before you speak, then you have to go on talking, you know. I don't know how many are saying anything.
Okay, one aspect of it is that they don't prepare themselves and therefore they go on talking because they don't realize that the point can be made quickly. There's another aspect. How many MPs actually participate in serious discussion as opposed to 0 hour? I mean, some reports suggest that maybe no more than 10 or 12% of MPs actually take part in serious debates.
No, no, they do take a care. It depends on what is being discussed in Parliament. You see, for example, when railway budget is debated in the Parliament, then you have any number of speakers. Sometimes we sit 20 hours, 24 hours, 27 hours continuously. The Parliament goes on whole night. And I can see at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, large number of members of Parliament sitting.
When does the opposite happen?
Huh?
When does the opposite happen?
Well, when, when some private members' business is supposed taking place, then it's very difficult to get members of Parliament. Or some discussion on some bills, you know. But there are a number of members of Parliament, you know, who would like to participate in every debate. Again, there is a class of members of Parliament, you know, though their number is not very large, but they do take interest, very much interest. So, by and large, it is all right, but I think something more needs to be done.
When you talk about something more needs to be done, to what extent do political parties provide the correct support for new MPs to make them effective, provide them with the research, provide them with the training, provide them with an understanding of parliamentary procedure?
You see, this is the right point you are making. You know, this is the point which I have repeatedly made it in many of my speeches. You know, if the quality of debates in the Parliament have to improve, if Parliament has to conduct in an orderly manner, you know, with dignity, if we have to enforce discipline in the Parliament, then the major role is to be played by the respective political parties. And when? During election time. In fact, pre-election I would call it. When they are giving nominations to various constituencies in the country, that is the time where they should be very, very careful in choosing the people's representative. That is a very, very important point.
Mr. Sangma, that's exactly the subject I want to discuss with you in part 2. So forgive me for interrupting you. Let's take a quick commercial break and come back to this very important subject. Do we choose the right people to be our MP? Mr. Sangma, in part 1, we ended with you talking about the importance of selecting the right people. In your speeches and in your writings, you've talked about the need to look into the antecedents and education of candidates.
Exactly.
Explain to me, how will that help?
You see, the political parties, I'm sorry to say this, are not playing or doing the right thing that they should do, you know. At the time of selection of candidates, people just go and pick up, you know, who will be good for that, you know. In fact, there are cases where some other political parties will wait the selection of candidates of another political parties so that they can pick up somebody who did not get a ticket, you know.
So we're choosing for the wrong reasons.
Wrong reasons. What political commitment, ideological commitment that gentleman will have to the political party in whose name he is starting an election.
Does this also mean that we're choosing
Therefore,
people?
the political parties will have to build up their cadre. They have to give training to them right before they are entering the electoral fray. You see, they must be given some essential education, essential, you know, information about what Parliament is, where he is going. I don't know how many parties are doing that, to tell their candidates where he is going, what he is supposed to do in Parliament, how the Parliament functions, what is the Constitution of India, what is the geography of this country.
But Speaker,
you know,
there is a corollary to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Some MPs don't deserve to be MPs, you're saying.
I wouldn't say that. It would be too much for me to make such a comment. See, I won't be. They're all honorable members of the House.
Okay, but how about something else? Would you say that the caliber of MPs between 52 and 97 has come down?
You know, if you look at the first, second Lok Sabha, you find that it is a very, I don't know, it's a very confusing situation. Even I don't understand how it is. If you look at the percentage of people who are not literate, who had no educational qualification, surprisingly, the percentage was much higher in the first Lok Sabha itself than the present Lok Sabha. The percentage of illiterate people representing in parliament has drastically come down.
And yet the
percentage of educated people, the qualified people, people with degrees, have gone up substantially.
And yet, yes, carry on.
And yet, if you look at the quality of debates in the first parliament or second parliament or third parliament, and if you look at the quality of debates now in this present parliament or the 10th parliament, it is very confusing. I myself, I don't know how it is happening.
Tell me something.
So it is not the mere degree that matters. It is the background of the person, the commitment of the person. I think it is the, I don't know.
You've talked about quality of debates 2-3 times in this interview. As Speaker, you sit and listen to them, and you do it from a non-partisan point of view.
Yes.
How disappointed are you with the quality of debate?
I'm not very much disappointed because in every debate, you have people who are very, very good and they contribute very well. They speak.
But they're a minority.
Yeah.
But they're a minority.
Yes, they're a minority, but then it is not the minority or majority, but it's the quality that you get at that particular moment if somebody speaks. It's a very highly high level of debate you get it. There are senior members.
But the average contribution?
You see, the average contribution is it's not that they are not capable of contributing, but I think they will have to make effort to contribute much more effectively.
So they don't rise to the occasion?
I think they should rise to the occasion more.
Are they casual in their approach?
Not necessarily, because they are much more concerned about their constituencies than what law it should be and what policy it should be,
It's this
when it's a question of a particular problem of a constituency or particular problem relating to a particular region or particular state, they are quite active and they come out very well,
Let me turn to another aspect of Parliament that concerns a lot of us, which we learn a lot about from the press and the papers, what I might call the conduct of MPs. It seems to us that a lot of MPs spend their time in the well of the House, shouting at you. Does this happen in other parliaments as much?
I don't know, but I don't think such things happened. Sometimes I read that such things do happen in other parliaments also. I think a few months back I read something of what is happening here in India, in Taiwan parliament, where it was physically fighting and all. But I really do not know in how many parliaments such things are happening, but it is a very, very unhealthy thing, you see, unhealthy. And as the representatives of the people, as the leaders of the people, I think, they should be much more careful.
You're frequently receiving letters from even school children complaining about it.
Yes, plenty of them. Plenty of them.
This is the single biggest factor that gives Parliament a bad name in the country.
I think so. I think so.
Well, why don't MPs stop? It sounds to the outside world as if they're behaving immaturely, like children at times.
This Parliament especially is different, I should say, because, in the past, majority members of the Parliament used to be re-elected, and the minority would be coming in as fresh members of Parliament. And therefore, they would be watching the elders and how they know and learn. We did it like that. In this Parliament, the new entrants to the Parliament, those who were never in the legislature, not elected even as MLAs or even panchayat members, they have directly, for the first time, come to Parliament, and they are the majority today. Out of 545, 287 of them are just new to the Parliament.
But are you saying because they are new, they don't know how to behave?
Well, I think they should learn more how to behave.
How difficult is it for you as Speaker to have to control these scenes of bedlam at times?
It is very difficult, Earlier, you know, we used to be, you know, this is my 5th term to the parliament, and whenever people come to the well of the house and make halla and all this, the speaker normally adjourns the house, and then they said, okay, we'll mediate after half an hour, let them cool down, you know, or 1 hour. Then the house will be reconvened after 1 hour. They, you know, again they start the same thing, you know. So I have experienced that in my last many years in this parliament. So I have decided that whatever noise they make, even if they come to the well of the house, I will not adjourn the house. So I sit there quietly, and they go on.
But don't you find that
it.
sometimes?
Yeah.
Don't you find that sometimes they draw you into a fight?
Sometimes I do get angry, but by and large I don't.
Do you think you got angry in the Mamta Banerjee incident?
Yes, of course, I got a quite.
Do you regret the use of the phrase "get out"?
Well, I should not have used that word, perhaps. But then I think at that moment, I think what I thought was that I should speak in the language which one understands.
And you probably meant it as well. Tell me, Speaker, time is our enemy, but tell me one thing. How much of these problems, lack of preparedness in debates, lack of decorum and these hangamas, as you call it, in the well of the House, and lack of attention to detail and proper discussion, how much of this would be put right simply if parties chose better, more fitting, more suitable people?
It will make a lot of difference. It will make a lot of difference. This is my appeal to them. My appeal also to my appeal is also to the media. You know, there are serious debates, very high quality debates, standards very high. They don't get place in media. You know?
So are you saying that in a way the media encourages the hangama because it gives publicity to it?
Exactly so. Many of them are doing for the sake of publicity because they know that if they do it, they will find their name next day in the newspaper. It will be shown on the television. I think if the media today decides, you know, all right, we will not report what is happening. We will report only serious debates. I think it will substantially come down.
Okay, you've made some fairly important points, Speaker, about the quality of debate, about the quality of the person who becomes an MP. And clearly you also feel that these are urgent issues that should be tackled. But do the senior members of the executive, do the senior leaders of the political parties share this urgency?
Yes, sure, they do share. They do share. In fact, I'm happy that the opposition party, the BJP, they have started conducting what you call refreshers course, training to their own members. We do it from the parliament side. We can't do it much. I have given a call that political parties, now that the members have come, in future you should be careful in selecting the candidates, what I'm saying. That's what I have been requesting them.
In which case?
Now that their members are already here, please see that they do better.
In which case, my last question, assuming that we have another election fairly quickly, are you confident that this time all the parties will put up better candidates?
Well, I'm saying it, but I don't think it is going to be that easy for them also. I do realize that. But I don't expect a change, overnight change. No, I don't think. I'm not expecting that. But we should progressively go towards better performance. It cannot be done away with overnight. Political parties have got their own compulsions.
Mr. Sangma, for speaking so openly and so frankly to us, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
That's it for this week. We'll be back next week with another interviewee, but for today, from the offices of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, goodbye.